Welcome, motorsport fans. Today, we are unpacking the absolute sheer chaos of the 2026 MotoGP Dutch Grand Prix Sprint at Assen. We're going to break down the massive rule changes, those incredibly intense track battles, and how the results completely upended the championship standings. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Background of the sprint. 2. Fierce race developments. 3. The dramatic final lap. 4. Sprint race final results. And finally, 5. The latest points ranking.
All right, starting things off with Section 1, Background of the Sprint.
So before the lights even went out, the paddock was already dealing with a massive shakeup. We saw an immediate ban on the front hole shot device. This was originally slated for 2027, but they brought it forward to right now for safety. Without it, riders are hitting turn 1 tens of kilometers per hour slower. I mean, imagine trying to launch a rocket, but suddenly you have to control the thrusters completely manually. It totally dispersed the pack and eliminated those unnatural braking issues, but it also forced a complete, absolute reset of everyone's launch strategies.
And Aprilia, well, they capitalized on this reset perfectly. They absolutely dominated qualifying to lock out the top 4 grid positions. Jorge Martin took pole, flanked right by that incredible Trackhouse racing duo. Assen's flowing, high-speed layout proved to be, without a doubt, the ultimate playground for the Aprilia machinery.
Moving right along to Section 2, Fierce Race Developments.
Let's move to the track and see how this builds up, because with those new starting parameters, the opening laps were just breathtaking. Right off the line, Io Agura nailed the launch from second to grab the lead into turn 1. And sure, Martin snatched it back temporarily, but the Trackhouse riders were just relentless. By lap 2, Raul Fernandez was already attacking, and by lap 4, he made the decisive move to take an ultimate race lead that he would never let go of.
But the battle behind Fernandez actually scratched that. It was an absolute dogfight. Trackhouse's Io Agura initially dropped behind the surging VR46 Ducati of Fabio Di Giannantonio down to third. But Agura showed immense resilience here. He carefully plotted his retaliation, fighting back to reclaim that second-place spot. And once he was in clear air, Agura just put his head down, setting the absolute fastest lap of the race, a blistering 1 minute 32.127 seconds to hunt down his race-leading teammate.
0.362 seconds. That is it. That is the razor-thin margin by which AI Agura missed out on the sprint victory. He ate into Fernandez's lead in those closing stages, but just simply ran out of laps. Still, what an absolutely historic 1-2 finish for the team.
Which brings us right into Section 3, the dramatic final lap.
And this brilliantly illustrates how ruthless the sport can be. While Trackhouse celebrated, the modern MotoGP rulebook was punishing mistakes farther back in the pack. Francesco Bagnaia physically crossed the finish line in 6th after a really tough race, but officially demoted to 7th. Why? Because on the very last lap, while hunting Jorge Martin, his tires just barely touched the green-painted zone outside the track limits. That tiny, literal fraction of an error resulted in an automatic one-position penalty, gifting 6th place right to Marc Marquez.
Marc Marquez's perspective on this whole ordeal was deeply revealing. He basically hit the nail on the head, stating, "But this year's survival is survival in the truest sense of the word. You have to evaluate over 22 races, but here Aprilia is stronger." You know, Marquez pragmatically accepted 6th because he knew that pushing past the limit against the Aprilias on this specific track was just a recipe for disaster. It is a highly calculated, purely championship-minded approach from the veteran.
Okay, let's cool down for a second and look at Section 4, Sprint Race Final Results.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the hard data. The sheer dominance of Trackhouse racing is undeniable. Raul Fernandez and Io Agura complete that incredible 1-2 finish. Fabio Di Giannantonio ran a fantastic race to put his Ducati on the podium, just over a second back. But look at the gaps to 4th and 5th. They are wild. Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, despite starting on the front row, were over 2 and 4 seconds adrift by the time the flag waved.
And if we break down the manufacturer's success in the points-paying top 9, it reveals a complete, unquestionable lockout by the European factories. Aprilia dominated with 4 bikes, proving their Assen supremacy for sure. Ducati grabbed 3 spots, and KTM salvaged 2. The Japanese manufacturers, Honda and Yamaha, were entirely shut out of the sprint points today, with Fabio Quartararo being the highest placed way down in 10th.
Despite finishing 4th and collecting some really valuable points, Marco Bezzecchi was just purely frustrated.
He stated flatly, "I need to understand the reasons for the struggle." After topping every practice session earlier, fading to fourth because of heavy braking struggles into Turn 1 really left him and his team searching for immediate answers before Sunday's Grand Prix.
Let's pull back and look at the big picture. Section 5, latest points ranking.
So the crucial point is how all of this has drastically reshaped the overall championship picture. The top of the standings is now dangerously close. Jorge Martin's fifth-place finish gave him the outright championship lead, but his margin is incredibly slim. We are talking just 7 points ahead of Marco Bezzecchi. And Fabio Di Giannantonio sits quietly in third, only 16 points back, remaining a massive, massive threat in this title fight.
But honestly, perhaps the biggest story of the standings right now is Aya Ogura. Surging upward with his third consecutive second-place finish in a sprint, Ogura has officially leapfrogged Marc Marquez in the World Championship standings to take fourth overall. Get this, he is now just 25 points, which is exactly one feature race victory away from the championship leader. Ogura has injected himself directly into the world title fight with just relentless consistency.
And that brings us to the ultimate cliffhanger. With the whole shot ban totally leveling the starts, Trackhouse unlocking this absolutely unbeatable pace, and the top 4 riders squeezed into just a 25-point window, the stakes literally could not be higher. What you need to take away from this is that Sunday is completely unpredictable. Who is going to survive the physical toll and the immense psychological pressure over the full Grand Prix distance? Well, we are going to find out tomorrow. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. See you next time.